But thank you very much. It's been an opportunity and quite a privilege for us to be partners with Jamaica Observer for Design Week for the past 7 years, to have what I consider some very necessary and important conversations about how our environment is changing, how the things that we've perhaps taken for granted over the years, that my roof is going to withstand the next rainfall, that an earthquake is going to come and I'm going to be fine. But here we are in 2025 talking about creative resilience because, of course, things have changed, and how we now conceptualize living amidst these changes also must change. And when we speak about creative resilience, it's easy to restrict that conversation to what happens when a disaster strikes. It's easy to resist the conversation to just mere survival. But I want to put to us this afternoon that creative resilience takes into account far more than that. It's about creating designs that can withstand the test of time, and withstand the test of time not only in their strength, not only in their beauty, but in also their cultural relevance. And one thing we know about the Jamaican housing landscape is that in and of itself, it's a great storyteller. I live in one of the stories I was sharing earlier, Novia, with Michelle, was that I am born in St. Ann, raised in Mandeville, but across from my house in Mandeville is a house made from red dirt. And Heather and the others in the room will tell you, we've not used red dirt to build housing in Jamaica in decades. But every time I go back home to visit, there is that structure still standing that tells its own story. It would have gone through Hurricane Gilbert, more recently Hurricane Ivan, Tropical Storm Gustav in 2007 or 2008, and it still stands the test of time. And that's what we want to achieve where housing is concerned. We want to create structures that can stand the test of time, primarily because many people in Jamaica probably have the opportunity to buy only one house. We all want to go into the pinnacle. I do. And I'll have a conversation with Lee afterwards to see if I can make it into the pinnacle. But the reality for many of our Jamaicans is that they only have that opportunity to buy one house. And therefore, that investment has to be something that will withstand the test of time and that they'll be able to pass on this legacy to future generations. And I have a beautiful presentation here prepared for you, but if I don't go by it, please bear with me. I'm just going as the conversation flows. So we want to design homes that adapt and respond to changing weather. We're seeing more earthquakes. We're having more intense rainfall here in Jamaica. And so we have to ensure that when we do design, we're not just planning for the aesthetics and the beauty of it, but we're building structures that can withstand these changing weather conditions. And we've been able in Jamaica to create many solutions to some of the challenges that we've seen where housing is concerned. And that is a good platform to stand on. That we do have hurricanes now in Jamaica. We don't see the damage to be as intensive as it usually is. And that's partly because we're building smarter, we're building stronger, and we're building, of course, with more resilience. So there are some features of Jamaican housing that have worked over the years. They're not always cute, I must admit, not always the cutest, but they serve a particular purpose. So small roof overhangs, they assist with passage of hurricanes, that there's not an uplift of the roof. Last year we had Hurricane Beryl, and the insurance claims that came into the NHT afterwards told us a particular story, that people need to go back to building their roofs properly because majority of the damage that suffered was to the roofs. And there are many things that I hear sometimes that people think are optional when it comes to housing. Oh, I don't need hurricane straps because no hurricane don't pass my way. And every hurricane that's coming to Jamaica, they always do that dip. that southern dip, and they go right by. And so, and I understand because we're trying to cut costs and we're trying to stretch that dollar. But we have to ensure that in stretching the dollar and in cutting costs, we're not compromising on safety and we're not compromising on the structural integrity of our homes. Glass. Jamaicans now love glass. We like to see a house in Jamaica loves to see, or a big glass window, love to see a house in Jamaica coming. But all that glass is not necessarily the safest for you when it comes to storms and other forms of natural disasters. Another thing that we don't like in Jamaica anymore are verandas. And verandas are great places to tell stories, Novia. But they are great also for managing airflow and ventilation. And we've seen the increases in high rises and multi-stories. We move from verandas now to balconies to ensure that we still have that space that we can go out, get a bit of fresh air, have that conversation, have that cup of coffee. But also there is that flow right through the apartment so you don't have a greater reliance on air conditioning. So we have to look at how we build, but we also have to look at where we build. And so we need some resilience in terms of planning as well. And right across the Kingston skyline, we are all going up. We've seen a boom in multi-story apartments, and that's natural because of urban growth. And we all feel like we need to live close to where we work. But imagine the challenges. Well, we don't have to imagine. 2 Friday afternoons ago, tell you what happens in urban spaces where there is not enough attention paid to planning. And it's not just planning from a design and density and layout standpoint, it's planning as it relates to traffic management as well. It's planning, as Peter will tell you later, as it relates to water resources as well. And it's planning as it relates to even flexible working arrangements. If we are all trying to get into work at 8:30 in the morning in New Kingston, and we are all leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we have, I guarantee you, 2 hours of a grand waste of time. 2 hours of wasting time. So resilience is not, and we think about housing, and we think about resilience in housing, and we want to think about the structure only. But those are elements that impact housing as well. That if we're 40, I think my last check, and I can stand corrected by some of the planners and in the room who have the information, but at my last check, I think up to about 50% of Jamaica's population live in urban areas. More than, thank you, Heather, more than. What does that mean? The price of housing is going to be higher in those areas because I can't just wake up, hear the rooster crow, stretch, go out on the veranda, come back in, open my laptop in the cool hills of St. Catherine and start working at 8:30. No, I'm likely going to be in the throes of traffic trying to get into some urban area for work. So we think all of these things are somehow unrelated and are unconnected, but in truth and in fact, we are all one set of people trying to navigate through one space. So resilience takes into account, I want to put to us this afternoon, planning. And it's planning, as I said, not just from an urban planning standpoint as it relates to structures and densities, but planning end to end for the human being, where he will wake up, where he will go to work, where he will have recreation, where he will play. One of the things that Jamaica has moved forward with as it relates to planning, which we at the National Housing Trust have truly embraced, is the fact that we need more green spaces in our developments. And so we need these basic minimum standards as it relates to housing in Jamaica. And the NHT is proud to have adopted some of those. So in every NHT development, there are green spaces. In every NHT development, you'll find a play area for children. In every NHT development, you'll find jogging trails. And I'll tell you what we have been doing as it relates to those that were probably built a little earlier and therefore don't have these amenities a little later. So we want to build with a why, and that why has to be with safety and intention. So housing is that first shield, it's that first protection that you will have as an individual, and we have to protect that. And climate change, as I was saying earlier, is bringing stronger hurricanes, more risks, and so our housing infrastructure has to be resilient, and that's the intention we have to build with. And we need strong foundations, and not just strong foundations as it relates to design, but strong foundations in terms of carrying them out. We can't cut costs and cut corners. It comes back to haunt us. Smart layouts, energy efficiency, that's buzz right now, so we have to keep those things central to our design. And as it relates to building for the future, a home is where many memories are made. It's where families grow, it's where wealth is built. And therefore, we have to be very serious about how we protect that investment, I like to call it. If every generation, every family in Jamaica grows up, becomes an adult, and is starting from scratch, we will never have true wealth, growth, and development taking place. But if a 21-year-old, 25-year-old has the option of, oh, that's mommy and daddy's house, that's an investment I can have a little later, then we are truly building wealth, we are truly building generations. Because we're not going to get any more land, that's the reality. We're not going to find new land. We may find oil, I hope we do, knock on wood, but we're not going to find any more land. And so we have to ensure that what we build is something that's going to last for generations, and is something that we can pass on to other generations. The thing about housing is that it's more than just four walls and a roof. For some people, it's an investment, right, Cecile? For some people, it's security. You know, from a hard day of work, it's that place you go home to relax, unwind, and go again tomorrow. But for many of us, it is also that legacy that will pass on from one generation to a next generation, and it's that wealth-building tool. And because it has these multiplicity of purposes, we have to ensure that we protect the integrity of the houses that we're building. And finally, just to tell you a little bit of what the NHT has been doing in terms of supporting the idea of creative resilience. As a housing financier, we do provide the opportunities for individuals to build, buy, repair their homes. We do continue to look back at our mortgage suite of products and add new ones from time to time that support this idea of resilience. And one of the things that we're proud of is our smart energy loans, which we now allow our contributors or mortgagors the opportunity to purchase solar panels using financing from the NHT. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we never thought of that. But as our environment change, as our needs change, so too our policy and our solutions must also change. And one of the things we're also considerate of is that not everybody will be able to take on that loan. And so we do provide smart energy grants for our pensioners who perhaps, of course, are not in a position to earn a salary and make monthly payments. And so the NHT gives back 420 grants per year, 30 per parish, to our pensioners to ensure that they too can enjoy the peace and comfort of home. We're a facilitator of development, and we are always looking for partnerships with our developers to get the job done. We hear some startling numbers about the housing need in Jamaica, and the need is great, and the truth is the National Housing Trust alone cannot do it. And so we need partnerships with individuals who have mastered it, people who are doing it and doing it well, people who have the idea, who can get the financing and the technical support from us to get it done. And of course, we're also building communities, because what is a house by itself? A house is a home, and a home is a part of a wider community. That's ultimately what happens. And so we have to ensure that we also build strong infrastructure as it relates to communities to ensure that they are able to be resilient as well. And one of the projects the NHT has been doing is to spend roughly about $2 billion going back to some of our older housing developments to see how we can make them more resilient. And going into that project, we perhaps thought what we would be doing is a lot of, drainage work, a lot of fixing up roads, perhaps building a community center. But when we sit and we have some conversations with some of our homeowners in some areas, we realize that the idea of resilience and community living goes way beyond that for some of them. So in some of our communities, what we find we have been doing is river training. And you might be going, what on earth is the NHT doing in river training? But Peter will tell you that rivers, they are unpredictable. They're beautiful, serene, nice places to chill. But in a particular weather condition, they can become very, very dangerous. And the challenge we have in Jamaica, too, is that sometimes we've gone too close and in sometimes have gone in the path of some of our rivers. And we go, oh, no, man, it dry up. It's not that big like one time. It's not going to flow that way anymore. But we're living in an unpredictable future. And so the NHT has committed these resources to going back to some of our earlier communities to see how we can make them more resilient and more durable. So that's it for me for this afternoon. Thank you for your attention, and do enjoy the rest of this evening and the rest of Design Week.